Hey guys, in this video we're going to talk about the 5 worst speed parts you can put on your ride. Now I've been around old cars and hot rods a long time, and I've seen a bunch of things people have put on their cars that didn't work like they were supposed to, or they were downright dangerous. And this is a list of the worst 5 I could think of. Number 5, this flex fan right here. Now these fans have been around for a long time, and I'm going to be honest with you, they're garbage for the most part. I know sometimes you have to run them because they're really thin, but they don't work. They don't move a lot of air, you know, and they rob a lot of horsepower, and they've overheated more engines than Farrah Fawcett and Daisy Duke combined. And if this aluminum disaster doesn't slow your car down enough, they make a version in steel that'll slow it down even more for you. Number 4, the Fly Eye air cleaner. Now these ProFlow air cleaners, they looked pretty cool in 1985, all right? No kidding. And if you want a retro look now, this is your guy. But you better have your car in tip-top shape, because with one backfire of the carb, these things go up like Roman candles. No kidding. It's got a little felt filter in here that doesn't filter very good, and it filters out horsepower real good. I put one on my car one time and slowed down 2/10. I was worried about getting trash in my carb at the track. I was running without an air cleaner. I threw one of these on real quick, and it filtered out the horsepower just fine. Number 3, the K&N Stub Stack. Now look, somewhere somebody may have made more power with this than with a regular carburetor. But dude, this thing was terrible. I've tried this thing on 3 or 4 different cars, 3 or 4 different carburetors, with the choke and everything still in place, without the choke horn. I've tried it in multiple configurations. I bought this thing in about 1995, and so far it's slowed me down every single time. Now there might be a laboratory test somewhere that showed that thing picked up horsepower, but I'm convinced there was something else wrong. Number 2, an amp gauge. Now back in the 80s and 90s, you could buy this little 3-gauge set that I've had for a long time. You could buy this little 3-gauge set, and it came with an oil pressure, a water temperature, and an amp gauge. And one surefire way to burn your car to the ground was to hook up the amp gauge. I don't know why they thought we needed to know the amps. Now I know some cars from the factory came with an amp gauge, but this was just dumb. First time I tried hooking one up, set my car on fire. I know 3 or 4 people that had car fires strictly because of trying to hook this stupid gauge up. So for a long time you would see these gauges in somebody's car because they sold them in the 3-way gauge kit, but only 2 of the gauges worked. The amp gauge would light up, it would not work because they didn't want the car to burn to the ground. These things were terrible, and I don't know why they thought it was a good idea, but at some point it got replaced with a voltmeter instead of an amp gauge, and it's a way better situation. The number 1 worst speed part you could put on your car, a glass fuel filter. These little things right here have burned up plenty of cars. Now, I know plenty of people run them, and they've probably had thousands of miles on there with no issues, but I have seen several fires from these fuel filters right here getting beat around on the intake or something like that, or on the valve cover, breaking open, cracking and leaking and causing a fire. Now I suppose if you mounted this thing rigid like and made sure it wasn't going to bounce around, you might be okay, but really it's breakable. It doesn't take a lot to break it. I've broke one on my car when I was 17. It's just a very bad idea in my opinion, and this is a terrible thing. And that is the 5 worst speed parts in my opinion that you could put on your car. See you next time. And if you needed any proof on this one, I bought this thing brand new tonight from O'Reilly's just to make this video. And somebody has already burned this thing up and returned it. So now I'm taking it back too.